Wolcott hasn't always been just a little spot on the map. Wolcott at one time was a very major community in Eagle County. The first people there were most certainly the Native Americans, and as is true of most of northwestern Colorado, it was the Ute tribe that lived in this valley. The Ute Indians summered on Brush Creek south of Eagle, but they wintered at Wolcott. It was slightly warmer. The first settler in the community was a man named Russell. We have very little information about Russell in our Historical Society archives, but the community was temporarily named after him. A few years later, probably in the early 1880s, the community name changed to Wolcott, and that was after Senator Edward Wolcott, a senator from Colorado, who had the political pull to get a post office in the little community, and that's how the homesteaders there in turn honored him. But the thing that made Wolcott a particularly notable community was its central location in the valley. And it was a transportation center that served not only the towns that were just beginning to pop up in the Eagle Valley in the 1880s, like the mining town of Red Cliff, the little farming community of Avon, and further on down the River Eagle. Wolcott was prominent as a stage stop. For at least 20 years, from the 1880s into the early 1900s, a huge Concord stage pulled by 6 horses ran a daily route in between Wolcott and Steamboat Springs. In 1887, the Rio Grande Railroad pushed through its narrow gauge train tracks through the Wolcott area, and that really capped Wolcott's future for a while. Ranchers would come from all over northwestern Colorado and drive their cattle and their sheep to Wolcott, where they'd load them on the trains. The Moffett Railroad completed the Moffett Tunnel over in Grand County. That gave Grand County and Routt County ranchers a much more direct route for getting their cattle to market, to eastern markets in Denver, Kansas City, elsewhere. People who grew up in Wolcott these days remember in the 1930s, Wolcott was a bustling little town, a couple of merchandise stores. It was geared to the traveler. The Juvelises came into Wolcott, I believe, in the 1920s, maybe the 1930s, and they were sheep ranchers. They were Greek sheep ranchers who knew what they were doing. They brought in their own sheep herders, and they were prominent in the Wolcott community for many, many years.
And then came over and he bought, in 1926, he bought at Wolcott. So we've been there a long time. Geez, damn near 100 years. It will be pretty soon. But we did come, he came in 1907. He immigrated from Greece with probably, who knows, 20 bucks, whatever it was, and willingness to work.
I mean, it just amazes me all the time that how they could pick up and go to a foreign country. They didn't know where in the hell they were going. They didn't know what the hell they were going to do. And they left basically with no assets at all to buy before a week down the road. And what they accomplished is totally unreal.
And they owned the permit on that's today Vail Mountain, which was Game Creek. And my dad bought that. Then I ended up with that permit, and here comes Vail. Seibert and that group, and I'd met them. They were up on the mountain one summer. They said, we're going to build a ski mountain here, and I said, really? And that was it, and by God they did.
And there was 3 or 4 lambs that kept going in the circle that was right in the front, so we couldn't get them to move like we wanted them to. So we grabbed them. The only thing that was handy was to throw them in that car, and that car was brand spanking new. I don't think it had 500 miles on it. We threw those lambs in the Cadillac, and a friend of his drove up and he said, Pete, what are those sheep too in the car. He said, they bought it, they can ride in it.
Yeah, there were passenger trains that came through Wolcott, and they went on to Denver. Between Salt Lake and Denver, it was an overnight thing, and that was part of the romance of being up there. It was a different world, and nobody could even understand what it was.
People just had a different frame of mind. They were all trying to survive. All of the people that I know, and the economy is geared on surviving. And surviving depends on discipline. And with discipline, you can do anything.
We've changed that whole world there. It's all changed, and it's going to change again. All for the better. Each time it gets better and better, I think. Hopefully it does that just on into the ages.